part one of this was how like they're forcing investors to only invest in green companies because investment companies and hedge funds and the like are putting out prospectuses. They're printing prospecti that are just for people who want to invest in an environmentally conscious or socially conscious way. So you can get an ESG rated kind of fund, or they can point you to funds, or gatherings of stocks in these funds that are based on your principles. If you're an ethical investor, if you're not an ethical investor, start up a fucking Robinhood account and knock yourself out. But according to Glenn Beck, this is all just an attempt to make it so that you cannot trade companies on the American Stock Exchange unless they have a good ESG score. Nowhere does it say anything close to that, but that's the panic attack. That's where he's going. Next up, the origin of woke companies and how they're brainwashing our kids. Oh, good Lord. Oh, dear Lord, dear Lordy, Lordy, Lordy. They're brainwashing their children with the wokeness. Here it comes. He does an ad or something like that. Or whatever.
All right, I want to talk to you about...
Wait, was he... Oh, this is an ad he puts in? No. No. Okay, back to where you were. Now, just let my ideas grope you. All right, here we go. Play. The hell? Where'd the play button go on this thing? What's going on?
You're starting to see why I've said for the last 6 months, it's going to get harder for you to get a loan. Get one now.
Yes.
You have 40.
Glenn's a loan.
As I mentioned, companies and
here you go.
.net.
All right, here we go. Did you just smell something, Glenn? Did you think you're worried someone heard that as we're coming back from break? One of them just kind of snuck out and you thought it just got, okay.
As I mentioned before, the S in ESG is insanely vague, but companies and people's personal investments are being graded on it regardless.
Well, no, people's personal investments are being based on it because they want to help in these areas. Guess what? A lot of investors don't give a shit. It's more window dressing. But please take window dressing and make it look like a UN mandate.
Going to show you the real-life applications of that score with...
Are you going to be wearing chaps when this happens?
Disney and Facebook and a couple of other companies here in just a second, and it'll be all start to come together. The world will begin to make sense.
There's no point when you're watching Glenn Beck where the world begins to make sense. All sense sort of slips away. Also, we have still not figured out why Glenn Beck looks like a character from the show Kung Fu that wouldn't allow Kwai Chang Caine to drink water in his building.
Let's go back to the ESG score image that was sent to us. This is from...
It was sent to you? It was sent to you by an anonymous source? MSCI ESG ratings. This was sent to you. ESG scores. MSCI. This is the person that they're with. Theirs is like shitty because they invest in a lot of like oil and gas, and his friend has all of his money in death squads, so he doesn't understand why he's got such a shitty score. Oh wait,
Lynch, which is,
by the way, this is MSCI. Our clients, our solutions, research and insights, technology, who we are. ESG ratings. I went straight to there, by the way. This is not their opening page necessarily. What is an ESG rating? Let's see. Is designed to measure a company's resilience to long-term industry, material, environmental, social, and governance risks. We use a rules-based methodology to identify industry leaders and laggards according to their exposure to ESG risks and how well they manage those risks relative to peers. Our ESG ratings range from leader, AAA or AA, average A, triple B or double B, to laggard B and triple C. We also rate equity and fixed income securities, loans, mutual funds, ETFs, and countries. You can download the brochure. How do they work? These are the bad, these are the good, and these are the thing. Corporate search tool. You can search the ratings. Let's see. So you go in here and you go search by a company or ticker. Let's see. Cumulus. Is it? sorry, is it two L's on Cumulus? It's their brand name, so I don't know. Is it in there? No, doesn't exist. I guess they have none. Let's see, Blaze TV, probably not in there. No results found. Nope, no ESG on that one at all. Okay, there's an app to track ESG ratings in real time. There's a materiality map. Explore E, S, and G key issues by this. Okay, let's explore the map, shall we? This is from the site that his friend, okay. So this is how they create oil and gas drilling. There you go. Something like that. So there's weighted things about their issues that would give them a negative score: carbon emissions, biodiversity and land use, toxic emissions and waste. Product carbon footprint is part of that as well. They don't have it even registered in there. So this is good. So, and then we go to, this is MSCI. There you go. So when you go to MSCI, it does not go straight to that ESG thing. It's one of the things. But Climate Lab Enterprise, the tool, is fossil fuel divestment the answer to climate change? Listen to the podcast. Net Zero Knowledge Hub, actionable information for addressing financial. This net zero traffic. Okay, and then these are just stocks and funds, emerging market funds, how things are doing. That's a lot of green. That's terrible. How climate change could impact credit risk. Ask China about flooding and the real estate market. Carbon footprint, private equity, and debt funds to assess the impact of climate change on private asset portfolios. One of those situations where, like, let's say your assets that you're getting loans off of are properties that are in areas where sea rise is going to basically pull them into the ocean. What kind of collateral actually is that? So, all right. But this is his friend's shit ESG ratings on his investments.
Owned by Bank of America, one of the members of the Partnership for Carbon Accounting Financials. Now, they're a private organization, and I told you about it a couple of weeks ago. They received the UN framework for altering the global financial system by a U.S. bank called Amalgamated Bank. Amalgamated Bank is a union bank.
Oh, dear God.
There's absolutely no explanation on this score that explains why this person's investment scored a below average social score. There is
Well, yeah, there would be. If you clicked on these pieces right here, because I think he sent you an image instead of the PDF itself or whatever, but these are the categorical reasons. His environmental is at 6. This is a little blurry for me, but I'm judging based on this. His social at 4.7 and his governance is 4.6. So that's what's pulling it down in the overall ESG to 4.7 out of 10. He's basically average in what he's doing. Now, maybe it's just because he sent you this still image and then you made an even smaller still image of this part of it. And then it says, what does it really say? And that's the description right there. And then I'm guessing on the real paper, if you scroll down on it, you did like that with your trackpad, it would show you that stuff, but he just sent you a clip art essentially. Because I know maybe he's a lying son of a bitch because he's a friend of yours, but it also could be that he knows that too many words make Glenn Beck's nose bleed.
So if it is Merrill Lynch's desire to show how it affects you and you can keep score, can you tell us what these ratings mean and who compiled them?
Well, yes, it says MSCI, and MSCI is an actual company. And then they show you who their clients are: asset managers, owners, banks, insurance companies, and wealth managers. And then the research and insights, if you click on there, you can look on their ESG research, and then they have what could make a rate hike mean for this: hedging inflation with equities, net zero alignment, objective, strategic, and approaches for investors. How climate change could impact credit risk. Obviously, this is this doesn't necessarily mean you give a shit about climate change. Just how can you mitigate how much money you might lose and stuff. But that would take you looking at the 4 letters at the top of this fucking thing, which is on the paper you're showing us right there. And from that, I'll show you right here, this little guy. It would mean looking at those 4 letters, and then you could go over and look up what categories they are referencing specifically and how they impact your direct investments based on their website. because that's strategically, who gives a fuck about, they got it from Amalgamated Bank, if they did it at all. This is the standard they're using, and you can go look at that standard and you go, I like that standard, it has enough detail for me, and therefore it's valuable, or I think their standards are fucked and they don't make sense, and therefore I'm going to move my investments to another hedge fund because I want a higher score for something I don't apparently give a shit about. If I'm Glenn Beck's friend,
a below average social score. There is none. So if it is Merrill Lynch's desire to show how it affects you and you can keep score, can you tell us what these ratings mean? And
well, maybe call your trade advisor or your financial planner at Merrill Lynch, because that's, have you seen the ads? They love taking your call. Ask them what the fuck.
who compiled them?
Well, the company that's listed at the top of the page.
Well, we did our homework and we found out they were compiled by MSCI.
You did your homework? Fucko, it says it at the top of the page, your fucking homework. And we found out that it was compiled by the company it says it was compiled by on the top of the page. Learn about MSCI's ratings. Okay, here we go. All right.
That's Morgan Stanley. So guess who they're also a member of? The Partnership for Carbon Accounting Financials.
Uh-huh.
All of this loops back to the same place over and over again. But tonight,
How so? Sorry. Let's look up PCAF. God damn, this is dumb. PCAF. Here you go, kids. We did our homework at Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. Don't forget to give a thumbs up, a like, subscribe today, because who the fuck else does this in real time? Partnership for Carbon Accounting Financials. Enabling financial institutions to assess and disclose greenhouse gas emissions of loans and investments. Download the standard. You can join. Gee whiz. We'll download the standard. Let's see. Download the executive summary. I'll just do the standard. There you go. The global GHG accounting and reporting standard. Okay. Acknowledgements, forward, introduction. Let's say the acknowledgements, September 2019. So these are the companies that are involved in this, including Bank of America, which he said was getting it through Amalgamated Bank, but they're all partners of the same fucking thing, so he's not getting it. They're not getting it from anywhere. And then I don't see Merrill Lynch in that. I get Morgan Stanley, which would be MSCI. Morgan Stanley. Okay, but whatever. All right. Did he say Merrill Lynch or Morgan Stanley? It doesn't matter. Okay. According to the throughout the development of the global there's a steering committee. That's wonderful. As the urgency of the climate emergency grows, with still rising global greenhouse gases and proliferating physical impacts, increasing efforts are now being directed at how to prepare the global financial system to manage carbon risks and bring solutions to climate change by bringing emissions down to net zero. It is against the backdrop that, as members of the steering committee for the Partnership for Carbon Accounting Financials, we have been building what we believe to be an essential and crucial component of the broader climate finance ecosystem. Okay, we owe the globalization, blah, blah. Mark Carney, bless you. Okay. Let's see, is an industry-led initiative, so private businesses, created in 2015 by Dutch financial institutions, PCAF, extended to North America in 2018 and scaled up globally in 2019. GHG accounting enables financial institutions to disclose these emissions at a fixed point in time and in line with financial accounting periods. Measuring financed emissions allows financial institutions to make transparent climate disclosures on their GHG emissions exposure, identify climate-related transition risks, that's what this is really about. Again, remember what I told you about like oversized mannequins at Target, and that doesn't mean they give a fuck about people who are plus size at all. They just know the audience they're selling to, and it's just pandering. And a lot of the cause marketing you see in big companies isn't because they genuinely give a shit. It doesn't mean they don't, but it's largely because they know their audience likes said thing. A lot of BLM payments from corporations came from that. They know that their audience supports, or their customer base supports the idea. So if they give money to it, they can at least say, we gave money to that. And they're like, okay, I'll keep buying, the shoes you make in sweatshops. Risks and opportunities. So the areas where you can make money on the transition away from carbon and towards renewables, and where it's going to be expensive and where not to build buildings and shit like that, and set the baseline emissions for target setting in alignment with the Paris Agreement. So in alignment with the Paris Agreement, which we have already read has a shit ton of stuff in it about if feasible and if financially doesn't fuck your country into a cocktat, you're allowed to do it. We want to do that.
Interested in how your everyday average investor or a business can wind up getting a below average social score. So
I'm going to go with you have a bakery that produces too much methane.
let's go directly to Morgan Stanley's ESG Rating Methodology report from 3 months ago. Under social, they list human capital, production liability.
Which, of course, is human capital is, of course, how many babies they eat a week. Product liability, okay.
Stakeholder opposition, and social opportunities. Now, there's little to no explanation of what might be included under that anywhere. Basically, they could be used for whatever they want to do.
Or nothing at all. Gee, it's almost like a marketing document. Have you looked at the stocks they recommend? Not exactly the sweetest companies in the world.
And that is not a flaw, that is a design.
Feature, not a bug, is what he's kind of trying to say.
Take stakeholder opposition. Now, this is not shareholder, this is stakeholder. And under this form of, quote, capitalism, we're all stakeholders.
No. Well, is this the whole point where stakeholder opposition might mean like the people in Kenya don't like the fact that Exxon dumps millions of gallons of oil in their drinking water every year? Hold on. Stakeholder opposition definition. Stakeholder opposition and risk in public-private partnerships. This is just the paper discusses stakeholder opposition risk. The analysis of project risks in public-private partnerships, PPPs, has traditionally focused on political, construction, finance, and other market-related risks with little attention paid to stakeholder opposition. The paper looks at the role of stakeholders in PPP projects and how they impact the success of projects and contends that it is the misallocation of this risk to the private sector party based on the principles of extant stakeholder theory that leads to public opposition to projects. Therefore, the stakeholder accountability theory is proposed that this approach properly recognize the roles of both the public and private sector parties in the management of stakeholder opposition risk. It is not unusual to witness more of the use of the term public opposition risk as opposed to stakeholder opposition risk in most of the literature in this area. However, this paper prefers to adopt the term stakeholder opposition risk due to the fact that the phrase public opposition appears limited in scope, as it does not seem to take into consideration the wider range of individuals or organizations that affect, influence, or can oppose the PPP project. The use of the word stakeholder cures this defect, not only because the term encompasses a wider range of project influencers, but also aligns the idea of engaging people affected by a project with its theoretical foundations, the stakeholder theory. Nevertheless, it is important to note that most important stakeholders are members of the public in their role as end users of the infrastructure services. If you know, it's like Trump doesn't want windmills in his area because they're bird-killing cancer machines. He would be a stakeholder in this situation.
You have your voice as a proxy when you elect your representative from the government. So what is social opposition? What does that mean? Is that for when the woke mob comes for you and calls for a boycott? Yes,
a boycott? Well, how often
is that for when the woke mob comes for you and calls for a boycott? Yes.
A boycott? Oh, well, I don't know. Somebody has to tell me. Or it could be when assholes show up at school board meetings and threaten the lives of teachers when they don't like masks being worn at school. And if you're in a public-private partnership with providing masks to the school district, people get mad at you because you're the one supplying the mass that the government's giving out for free at the schools so everybody has
The
them.
company is put at risk. Would your score drop due to some social justice warriors raging on Twitter? And if that's true, the future of your company or even your retirement and 401k could be at the mercy of a few thousand millennials on social media.
And if your company is that flimsy, I think everybody will go, holy shit, this company can be taken down by 500 fake tweets. Probably not a good investment.
All sounds ridiculous, but it's happening. Now, how did we get here? Well, I've been saying
Well, I'm fairly certain we drove down a country road.
for a decade now, what was happening under Obama was nothing compared to what we were setting into motion. The worst was yet to come. Remember, I used to say, watch the other hand. Obama paved the road.
Yeah, but we didn't want to do that because your hands are weird.
And now what they're marching on is what they created. A couple of years into Obama's first term, companies began actively working with business schools to turn out employees that they wanted. Okay, in the new financial world order, quote, companies say that working with business schools is important to ensure a new generation of workers that sees corporate responsibility as a bottom line booster, not something just to feel good about.
Yes, they want to make money on the coming woke apocalypse, that they see dollar signs in their eyes if they can pander to people who care more about jargon than they do about human beings. And so they know this. And that's exactly what you're reading with this ESG stuff.
Well, I have no problem with this. Is this a problem? Probably not something I would report on. Unless you saw what the plan was.
Dear God, what's the plan? And why do I feel like Alex Jones sexually assaulted Mr. Rogers, and this is what we ended up with?
Back then, the S in ESG was taught in universities as corporate social responsibility. Pretty soon, companies began creating job titles like social
Now it means socialism.
responsibility manager and sustainability officer. I couldn't go to work with a straight face. I mean, be like, you all know this is a scam, right?
Well, no. I mean, if you're using certain resources and you realize that there won't be a company in 5 years if you keep overusing that resource without finding a way to mitigate the need for that resource while coming up with other sources of that resource, that would be a sustainability manager, someone who can plan for the company to actually exist in 10 years when they're using scarce resources, or shifting from a fossil fuel driven situation if they have a lot of trucks or a lot of delivery systems to trains and shipping and electric vehicles and the like, if at all possible. Amazon has a sustainability manager. That's why they ended up shifting to electric trucks almost across the board. They started building autonomous vehicles. That's why they were doing drone drops. That's the sustainability officer's job, is to focus out, look at all what they use to make their company happen and go, yeah, we use this. This is 60% of how we make our company, and it's not going to exist in 10 years. So if we're going to keep doing our job, we're either going to need to replace that or come up with more of it from some other source. The only reason Glenn Beck would feel embarrassed coming to work and having that as his job is because he can't think past wearing clothes that aren't garanimals.
By that time, it had been taught at colleges and universities for several years. This is from the University of Wisconsin. They define corporate social responsibility as, quote, an alternative business approach that can...
Oh, an alternative business approach. So this isn't something all businesses would do. This would be an alternative business approach to the norm or the majority. Okay.
Considers environmental, social, and financial performance.
And financial performance. Wait a fucking second. Environmental, social, and financial? Wait a minute. You can't be a true commie if you care about the environment and social and you're still trying to make money off it. Who left that in there? Who left financial performance in there? It's completely fucking up his narrative. Glenn Beck is trying to make somebody cover that. I can't do it because my green screen ends. Son of a bitch.
Well, at least that one has an F and not just the ESG, this one at least is thinking about financials.
Well, the other ones are hedge funds and corporations who have they have a responsibility to shareholders to make money. So the F goes without saying in most cases, except in my case, to you, in which I would say F you.
Now, not any specifics on what makes a good social company, but no matter where we looked.
Not in the whole fucking course? No? There's no specifics? You take you took a whole semester. What kind of, is it a pass-fail at least?
At the curriculum, the overriding theme was to train employees to be activists at activist companies. The main textbook at Harvard's CSR degree was Changing Business from the Inside Out.
A tree hugger's guide to what? Working in corporations. Working in corporations. I thought it was to work against corporations. Changing business from the inside out. Well, let's see. That's the main textbook. Changing business from the inside out. It's a $23 book. You can get it for $6 used on there. Do we have it on Scribd? Let's see what the let's see, Scribd. Let's see. I have to give me a second. I'm looking it up. Changing. Whoops. Business from, whoops, I can write shit. There it is. Changing business from the inside out. Coming up. Here it is. Wait. Tim Mohin. This is the book right here. The BP oil spill, the 2008 financial collapse, and revelations of scandalous work conditions at Chinese electronics supplier Foxconn shows why so many are suspicious of promises of corporate responsibility. But slowly and fitfully, corporations are changing. It's not because of the high cost of making amends and fear of negative publicity. Consumers are demanding better corporate behavior. An increasing number of executives are eager to make their organizations more of a force for good. This sounds terrible. Dear God. But corporations can't act in responsible ways if no tree huggers are working inside the system to lead the effort. For more than 2 decades, Timothy Mohan has worked to improve working conditions, clean up factories, and battle climate change, all while being employed by some of the biggest companies in the world. Changing business from the inside out, he's written the first practical, authoritative insider's guide to creating a career in corporate responsibility. Mohan describes how to get started and what the day-to-day experience of being the designated driver at the corporate cocktail party is really like. He recounts colorful case studies from his own career, provides advice on how CSR workers can have greater impact, and even looks into how employees in other corporate functions can make a difference. He details the programs and processes needed to support a comprehensive CSR effort, but perhaps most importantly, he identifies the personal and professional skills needed to navigate corporate politics and get buy-in from sometimes skeptical colleagues. Obviously, we're talking about mind reading. Dear God. Look at this. Look at this title page. It's like a horror movie. Net Impact, CEO Business for Social Responsibility. Cirrus Greenbiz wrote nice things about him. Investment, CSO. These are all the business people that have written nice things about him. There he is hugging a tree. That's what we call branding. That's the thing. Department of Good Works. Introduction, working for good inside. Running a data-driven program, setting the strategy, environmental sustainability, supplier responsibility, establishing the program, 4 essential program elements. This is very practical stuff. Stakeholders and investors. Oh, stakeholders. What does that mean? This feedback is a gift. Source unknown. Who are stakeholders? This is good. This is where we were looking before. A stakeholder is any group or individual that has the ability to impact and or that may be impacted by your company's operations and or policies. So everybody downstream. Stated another way, a stakeholder is an entity that has a legitimate social, economic, political, or environmental stake in your company's activities. So if you, let's just say you live in Eastern Kentucky and coal mines in West Virginia have been poisoning your rivers and streams forever, causing birth defects in your area, you would be a stakeholder in how coal mines do business in West Virginia. La la. Anyways, so this is a horrifying book, obviously. Applied corporate responsibility. This is so, chill went through my spine. not my spine, Glenn Beck's spine.
CSR degree was changing business from the inside out. By 2010, this was going
By the way, changing it into communism.
be pumped out in every major corporation in the country, creating activist employees and inserting them into the workforce. It was
And strangely enough, American companies have made more money.
put into overdrive in 2010. This is a blog post from a director of a U.S. Chamber of Commerce on what corporate social responsibility should include in the curriculum. He said,
I love how they like somebody took a picture of this, like this is a spy photo, like they opened a drawer and like an investigative reporter, and I only had time to snap a quick photo of it. This is the flashlight on the paper. Seriously, consider what this image is supposed to bullshit you into thinking, that this is somehow secret and not just readily available on the internet to agree with or disagree with. And it's the fucking U.S. Chamber of Commerce, you know, all the U.S. Chamber of Commies is more like it. But that's, whenever you see this, by the way, and Daily Wire does this shit a lot too, where they do this fake vignetting on something. It's to give you the illusion that someone is holding, your mind's supposed to think somebody's holding a flashlight on it and you're taking, this was hidden from the public, and it's fucking not. It's a website.
responsibility should include in the curriculum.
By the way, you could tell because there's a little subscribe thing or whatever, which, and you know, that was the thing. James Bond in the old Cold War Bond movies was always stumbling across secret Russian documents that all had a subscribe link in there.
He said,
"You want me to talk? No, I want your email address, Mr. Bond."
they learn, quote, volunteerism, board placement,
Horrifying. Volunteering? Kind of commie bullshit.
advocacy, communications, public-private partnerships, social media outreach, stakeholder webs, alliance systems. And they would learn about
Why isn't codes of conduct, recognition, and prizes, and a host of other tools and tactics? Why didn't you outline that? Why didn't that get highlighted? That part.
competitor proxies, comprehensive campaigns, flash mobs, and third-party boycotts. Wow. He goes,
Wow. So they know what they are? Does that mean use them, or does that mean be aware of what they are? Or both?
on, by the time that they were done, the students with this kind of grounding would be well equipped to use social capital management, stakeholder relationship, and long-term business development. Well equipped.
Hold on. No, that's not what it said, Glenn. Long-term business development tools to grow revenues in current and new markets, improve productivity, reduce costs, regardless of whether they go into finance, marketing, HR, operations, or any other business discipline. Why the fuck didn't you, Glenn? Why'd you leave this part off? Honest to God, I would have vignetted this part too, because this kind of fucks your whole argument again. Do they not? Does he not know you can freeze frame? What an asshole. And long-term business development. And he stops the word development because, and that's intentionally ending the phrase before the word tools. Because you take tools off that business development and it doesn't sound like you want to grow the business. It says you want long-term business development, meaning changing the business into something else. Holy shit. To grow revenues in current and new markets, improve productivity, and reduce costs, regardless of whether they go into that F word or that M word or HR, operations, or any other business discipline. Any other business discipline. Fucking hell. I'm beginning to think that Glenn ended up dressed this way because someone wrote on a piece of paper what he should be wearing, and this is the level of his reading comprehension.
Stakeholder relationship and long-term business development. Well equipped to use. The tools listed were advocacy, social media, boycotts, flash mobs.
Yes, we're over one run. And by the way, flash mobs, of course, BLM riots. That's what you're supposed to think, and not a bunch of people who just magically start dancing at a cocktail party as a marketing scheme.
Is this not how every activist bends public opinion ultimately to get what they want, even though public?
Well, or actually oversteps their bounds and drives a public backlash, which often happens as well. Like there's going to be, I predict there will be a backlash caused by the Netflix walkout, for example. People thinking they're doing the right thing and believing that this is the best way to do it, actually harming their cause long term instead of helping. That happens too. Doesn't mean it'll, just saying the tools exist doesn't mean they're going to work.
Opinion, poll after poll shows it doesn't bend. People just shut up about it. It kind of puts the recent woke companies into context, doesn't it? It begins to explain CEOs are facing employees with slick new titles like VP of Sustainability who are telling them, hey, if we don't ban Dr. Seuss, we may face a boycott. Hey, if we don't.
And they're going, we're a natural gas exploration company. What the fuck are you talking about?
Praise Colin Kaepernick.
We're a giant cookie company.
And defund the police, you can expect a boycott.
We make plastic seals for renewable, for reusable can tops. How are we supposed to defund the police?
This leftist social order on big business has clearly worked its way into indoctrination of colleges and university students into our businesses now. Most millennials now say that they would take a large pay cut to work for one of these woke companies.
Hold on. Half parents failure to talk about it would change job in the next 2 years if they're okay. Why millennials would take a 70? Let's see. That's Fortune. Why? I'm sure this says exactly what he says it says, but would take a $7,600 let's see, pay cut. Okay. There you go. Let's see, Fortune. There we go. Why millennials would take a $7,600 pay cut for a new job. Nearly half of everyone's favorite age group to talk about, that would be millennials, are open to changing jobs in the next few years, even if they're happy at work. When the time comes to make a new career move, quality of work life matters to those in the 25 to 35 age bracket. It matters so much that according to a new study at Fidelity, millennials would take an average pay cut of $7,600 if they could improve their career development, find more purposeful work, have a better work-life balance, or a better company culture. They'd take less money to be happier. What a bunch of fucking commies. Clearly, many young professionals are thinking about more than money and are willing to sacrifice a portion of their salary in exchange for a career move that would closely align with their values or passions or improves their work-life balance. And I can't read past there because you need a subscription. But this is to go work for the woke companies, he's saying, as opposed to they just would rather, they'll eat slightly less avocado toast if they can have more time off.
Would take a large pay cut to work for one of these woke companies.
Yeah, that's not what the article says at all. And even I know that just from reading the top of it.
Again, a win for the company. For
what? Yes, we get more employees, and they'll work for cheap if we give them more time off and like paternity and maternity leave and those kind of things. If we're a nicer place to work and they're less miserable. Other companies have to pay a misery tax of $7,600 a year that we don't have to pay because it's fun to be here.
Progressives, though, indoctrination of young adults isn't ever enough. It never is. They're now targeting.
We have to indoctrinate elderly people.
Or children. I just want to remind you what Vladimir Lenin said once, quote, "Give me just..."
Oh, you don't have to. You don't have to remind me. I know.
"One generation of youth, and I will transform the whole world."
Yeah, that didn't actually work out, though, did it? He took that generation of youth and he killed somewhere in the order of 50 million of his own people and a bunch of other people, and the Soviet Union is now back into basically being a a czarist oligarchy?
That is exactly what is happening. I mentioned earlier that unions would act in concert. While the government would set the agenda from the top, the unions would push in from all sides. You're seeing this now happen with the Obama administration. Unions are already out of control.
With the Obama administration? What time is it?
And it's about to get much, much worse. The House
Yes, now that Obama is president.
just passed the PRO, or the Protecting the Right to Organize Act. It
Dear God, not unions.
reads like it was written by union boss heads, and I believe it probably was. You don't want to join a union? Well, if you work where they have authority, you know, things are being good. If not, too bad. You don't want to pay them the dues? It's going to suck for you. Unions are all...
I'm convinced that that's true. You know what? I thought I was pro-union, but after that, I mean, a lot of us really feel like we could, you know, we've learned a lot. Lenin did some good things.
Already juggernauts, and they're about to get larger, more rich, and much more powerful. And unions...
Then what? Oh, then the giant corporations, the multinationals. Okay.
are never crossed. If it isn't clear what the union control on the Democratic Party is, there should be no question now. They're using that power to push the country further into crazy town in both business and schools.
Yes, those union environmentalists, all those dock workers who are making everybody, get electric cars.
Do you remember our special on Black Lives Matter? The curriculum
Boy, do I. No. Why would I watch your special on Black Lives Matter?
that was popping up in the schools all across the country. This is a week-long curriculum plan titled Children and Youth as Change Makers. Oh, isn't
Yeah, no one's ever had that thought before.
That's great. The goal is to teach kids how to become social justice advocates and activists and hit the streets. This is for your third
Not as prostitutes, clearly.
grader. It's a 5-day lesson plan, Monday through Friday, and it culminates on, quote, the final day with the following. Children engage directly in their cause of choice. Have children create protest signs for issues that they want to stand up for or against. Stage hallway protests, gym rallies, go out into the neighborhood for a youth march.
That sounds horrifying. You mean teaching kids to advocate in peaceful ways as opposed to doing violent actions? Where's the driving nails into trees so that loggers get murdered, or where's the how to build bombs like the Unabomber? Where's the Saul Alinsky plan on blowing up federal buildings? I mean, honestly, but I think this is just big office max.
Does this sound similar to corporate and social responsibility in university?
No, it doesn't. It sounds like an exercise in free speech and teaching kids to use their speech to advocate for things they care about and feel like they matter in a democracy. What a horrible idea.
Does it sound a little like, I don't know, what they were doing with the Hitler Youth?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't sound anything like what they were doing with the Hitler Youth. Unless some kid goes, what's your sign say, Johnny? It says 6 million weren't enough. That's good. Well, we try not to judge around here. Yes, my dad helped me make it. He's in jail.
Oh boy, I'm going to get in trouble for that one.
No, you're just a lunatic.
Black Lives Matter, endorsed by the 2 largest teacher unions in the country. Why?
Dear God.
The American Federation of Teachers issued a public statement. It said, quote, the National Education...
Wait, hold on. What was that again? In support of Black lives. So not the organization, just Black lives. Interesting.
Federation of Teachers issued a public statement. It said, quote, the National...
Whereas foundational to our work must be the belief in justice for all, and that the fight for fairness, justice, and dignity must encompass everyone, regardless of race, religion, gender, language, national origin, or sexual orientation. And whereas more than 400 years after Africans arrived on these shores, where they and their descendants were enslaved for nearly 250 years, and more than 150 years after the 14th Amendment, the United States Constitution granted citizenship and equal protection under the law to all, followed by another century of Jim Crow laws and 60 years after Brown v. Board, extended that promise. Black Americans continue to struggle for full law recognized full human beings deserving the basic rights. Okay, so yeah.
Education Association.
Black Lives Matter at School Resources, the National Education, talking about race.
Posted the actual curriculum on their website. And speaking of the curriculum,
in the dark of night, I bet.
This one is from the largest online curriculum companies in the country. They are now teaching corporate social responsibility from kindergarten.
Wait a minute. They're not teaching people to abandon corporations and capitalism entirely? The fuck? Is somebody trying to save capitalism from capitalism? That's weird.
To 12th, quote, as a result, the children will grow up to be more socially responsible adults.
What else does it say, Glenn? Who make better purchasing decisions. Driving consumerism in a direction that is more sustainable, that doesn't kill us while we're selling shit. Here's how to create your own corporate social responsibility projects. Business, ethics, and sustainability. The business part of it's very strange. How can you have ethics and sustainability and still have a business? Obviously, this is communism.
As a result, the children will grow up to be more socially responsible adults. The students create, quote, colorful posters that explain why businesses should be socially responsible.
Workers in developing countries will receive higher wages, for example. That's nice. It's a nice thought.
I'm sorry, but this doesn't look like education to me. This is clearly indoctrination.
Into a capitalist system that can be more functional and long-lasting as opposed to companies that just eat themselves.
Why are we allowing this to happen?
Yeah, that's a good point, Carl. I think the Hitler Youth did wear little kerchiefs around their necks. Didn't they have... I know they had brown shirts. What color were their jackets? We'll have to look it up.
Our schools. May I say, COVID is the best thing that happened to us because our kids are not getting this bull crap. By the way, here is a...
Why would you think that being home with your parents would make you less of a socially responsible purchaser of items?
There's a school district in Virginia that announced on Facebook today that they are going to do everything they can to silence the opposition. To silence the opposition for anybody who is opposed to any of this being taught in your schools. And by the way, that's just the teachers union, and some parents that are saying that they're going to do that.
The opposition to what? Teaching about the Holocaust? What the fuck are you talking about?
If you employ too many white men, does that make you socially irresponsible? What if?
No, it doesn't.
You don't.
And well, yes, technically, if you employ too many of anybody, why do you keep hiring? We only have, this was a 12-person organization. We only bring in about $80,000 in total goods a year. Yeah, but I've just hired a couple more people. How many? I found 47 white guys who don't have jobs, so I hired them. That's too many. You want me to go get some black guys? No, it's just too many people in general. They just happen to be white.
Fire training that tells employees to be less white, or you don't have enough inclusion on their board. What if you don't get to a $15 minimum wage like the big woke companies do?
Well, then they'll steal your workers, I guess.
Is this what is being taught in our schools?
Hey, thanks for the hype train. Look at that. We got a hype train in the middle of this. Look at this. Capitalism occurring right as I do this show. Look at all these bits and stuff that are following. Oh, my God. And thank you for the super chats. And by the way, don't forget, my header's in the way, isn't it? Venmo. Venmo's a great way to help out. I'm just saying, you know. You could take the $10 Venmo challenge. I don't know. I'm just making this up. If just give me a nickel for every laugh or a new piece of information. That should be about $100 a show.
Yes, because companies like EverFi are already in over 20,000 schools.
Dear God.
A lot of money is backing this junk. By the way, Home Depot just backed a study for the 1619 project.
It's Amazon.
The founders here of Twitter, Jeff Bezos.
The who? I'm sorry, the who?
His personal investment company.
The founders of was Bezos an early Twitter investor? Was he a founder? What?
Involved. We are so far behind the curve here. Actual business owners, their companies, our investments are being graded by a social metric that no one is even defining in any great detail.
So obviously investors are going to throw their money right at it since it's so vague.
But our kindergarten through 12th grade students are being weaned on it. Our university students are getting pushed and pushed harder. And then they're taking that straight into the workforce.
That sounds like filth.
Lives are about to change, and no one will explain how they're going to do it.
Well, I mean, we looked at the book. I mean, you brought up the fucking book. Where is it? This is the whole. Where are we? Yeah, this book right here. He has a whole. There's a whole strategy in there where you can make money and grow the company, find new markets, prepare yourself for a shifting power dynamic as far as energy in the world. Be aware of, like, if you're going to build hotels, for example, there are areas in the world that are going to be affected more by climate change than others, and you wouldn't want to build in those places. You're going to want to really send your contractors and your geologists and the like down there to take a good look at that before you move in any of those areas. And your sustainability executive would know that. Also, if you underpay your employees at a certain area, there's a chance where all the money you made in a certain area of the world might get eaten up in the fact that your security forces end up murdering a family to try and stave off an attack by the locals. And then all your money that you made is eaten up in defending yourself in the public eye. You might want to think about that. Just that happens a lot. You could argue that right now that everything that is happening financially to the United States and to Europe is part of our reliance on China, and it's always been baked in to shipping, getting our goods made over there cheaper, and then, like it was a big interest payment we put off. Yes, we got these cheap goods for decades, but eventually it came due, and you could argue that if we just made them here the whole time, yes, they would have been consistently more expensive, but there wouldn't be this big spike that fucked the whole thing. You'll have to talk to somebody who's got a degree in business sustainability about that, though.
So I'm going straight to the reports and the case studies, the things that they have already published, and try to make sense of all of this. How will you be deemed socially worthy? Now.
By my hair, I think, largely. Hi. What's going on? I mean, it is fabulous right now. I gotta say, like, this is getting to be some seriously good shit right now. Like, this is getting to where this is how I like it. This is the do right now. I'm not even fucking around. This is what I've been shooting for a while. I missed having hair like this, and it goes all the way down there's a big fluff of it down the back. Look at that. Look right there. That's what I'm talking about? This is some shit. I'm just saying. By the way, I'm like, in the world of people misgendering people, I am a roll of the dice everywhere I go right now. How the S will be used to force you to become woke. Dear God. Swoke. You sure it's not swole? Titty bop, titty bop. All right, here we go. How's this? Oh, he's gonna have an ad for some financial service that we're supposed to trust. Rough greens. Oh shit. There is no way this asshole uses these greens every day. There is no fucking way. There's no way. Look at the look on his face. Bullshit. I have a greens powder that I add to drink sometimes that I really, really like, and I find it's actually if you're trying to get and stay svelte in this area, a good greens powder be very helpful. I'm not going to sell his shit because I don't believe in it or whatever, but insofar as me being, I think, close to his age, I don't think I'm that far off. I might be 5 years younger than him, something like that. 4. But they're like, these kind of green stuff, like, I like that stuff. Steph does that stuff sometime. Hal's ego is killing me. Oh, you're getting the light end of it. Oh, yeah. He's 57. Right. Dude is fucking 5 years older than me. He looks like dried mayo. There is no, look at his face while he's holding this up. There is no fucking way he uses greens powder. There is no way.
Completely different dog. I hear from people all across the country that have this
that use it, because I sure as shit don't.
Same exact experience. They talk about the rough greens magic that happens.
Are they the rough greens magic? Is it a suppository? I just am confused about what makes it
Moon River.
A rough green. Like, how do you even take it?
Drop your shorts and bend over, Mr. Babar.
Rough greens.
With their dog. First, the dog.
Oh, it's for the dog. He doesn't. It's for pets. This motherfucker doesn't even take it himself. Rough greens. Get the fuck out of here.
You really will look back on this at some point, after.
And laugh. I'm already laughing. That's the nice thing, Glenn. I don't have to wait. I already know you're full of shit.
This financial slavery that we will have maybe for generations. Some point, somebody will look back and go, this was genius. It's beautifully designed. It's very clever. It's arrogant, yes. But boy, these financial institutions and big banks. Now remember, we bailed them out in 2008 after they came.
Right.
We gave them our money to stay afloat.
We got a level 2 hype train happening on Twitch right now. Bits and subscriptions. Throw some subscriptions in there. Get subscribed. There's so many people that follow that don't subscribe. Just do it. Just please. If you're on Amazon Prime, it doesn't cost you a dime.
And now they have the power to tell us how to do business and how.
No, they don't. They have the power to tell you how they're doing business, and if you like it, you might invest in them more or think that they're going to make more money because of changing markets.
Live. Something I've noticed recently from the mainstream media and the people that are behind all of this is that they try and delegitimize our concerns by calling it a giant conspiracy theory. They say it's ridiculous to think that an organization like the World Economic Forum is secretly plotting a global takeover. For what?
Well, they're not. They have a plan for long-term sustainability, and they look at the holes in the economic markets and basically all the grift and fraud that happens within them. There's got to be a way to patch those holes. Otherwise, the system's going to eat itself, and you're going to have a 2008 like every 10 years, and that's fucked up.
I'm not saying that. We think of the WEF as a marketing firm and the Great Reset as their ad campaign. It's their Colin Kaepernick, their Nike commercial. Davos isn't calling the shots. They're just pleading and making the case. It will be
right. But by the way, this is the only time he's ever said that. Every other time he talks about the Great Reset, he is so full of shit his eyes are brown. He ends up talking about the Great Reset as the new Agenda 21, the new Jade Helm. This is them coming for you. Aliens are living in underground layers, drinking baby milkshakes.
The government's teamed up with private businesses and banks that will see, oh my gosh, the amount of money we can make is crazy. And
which sounds like communism to me. It's incredible. It's almost like runaway capitalism is pretending not to be runaway capitalism so that they can try and make some runaway capitalism work.
They will carry everything out. The S in ESG is all about redesigning the social contract in the United States, changing a society as we know it. Listen to this.
How? Okay, well, he's going to show us how. I was about to interrupt, but let's see. The changing society as we know it. Which parts? All of it? Because is it a flip-flop? Are we straight going commie? Or are there elements of it that we're like, we should fix that? I don't know. It's probably the worst. Probably straight to commie.
John Kerry speaking at the World Economic Forum several months ago on how society can be redesigned.
Dear God. And it's a secret recording, too. You can tell.
I can't think of a moment where it has been more critical for governance to have leadership that is convening people. Government is going to make all the decisions that we need to make. But government is the great convener. Witness HIV, Ebola, other things that we did prove we could respond to. But what we never did in those responses, and in all of the periods since World War II, is adequately address the social contract.
Dear God. Not the social contract. Who would make a contract with America? That sounds so nefarious.
Did you, in a completely unrelated story, see that Joe Biden said yesterday when he was asked about this new global contract that when one country is going to shut down for a pandemic, we all shut down, that kind of thing. And he didn't say no to that. He said, timing is everything. It's just not right at the right time. But John Kerry is telling us government is going to make all of the decisions.
I'm sure that's, you know what? You know what, Glenn? I'm sure that's exactly what he said. That I have to look up. I know I'm going to go long again. God damn it! This is, you little big fucking pink marshmallow. Biden, not the right time for all countries shut down. Whatever. Christ, remarks by the press conference, White House, is March 25th. When the fuck? See Biden's reaction to shut down the country, November 19, 2020. 2021. Leaving Afghanistan may haunt Biden. News, let's see. The 5 Biden administration supply chain meltdown. Congress holds key. Promises made and promises kept. Supply chain issues lead Fox News to blame Biden for ruining Christmas. Let's see. Remarks by Biden on bipartisan infrastructure, debt ceiling. You know what? Maybe. I know. Give me a second. Hold on. Let's go to YouTube and we'll go to FactBase. I'm sure FactBase has Biden's most recent, let's see, videos. Let's see. Press gaggle reminds John. Let's see. Hold on. Could this possibly be it?
Thank you, Sergeant. My name is Joe Biden. I am Jill Biden's husband. That's how I'm better known. President Yost, Auxiliary President Henney, Auxiliary President Lehman, and a guy I've known for a long, long time, Jimmy Pasco, Executive Director. Thank you for this invitation to be with you today. The Secretary.
Oh, sorry. This is when Joe Biden honors law enforcement at the National Peace Officers Memorial. That's not when he said it. Let's see. Maybe there's something else in here. Here goes. Speaks to the press gaggle.
Folks,
this is probably when it happened. This is just yesterday. Here we go.
Details of the talks you've been having this week, who you've been talking to, what the focus has been. Has there been any specific progress?
That wouldn't be appropriate. There's still negotiations still going on. There has been progress, but and I'll be meeting with and talking with folks today and tomorrow and on Monday.
Secretary Kerry said the other day that if you come to Scotland without legislation passed by Congress to fund the bill, that would be as bad for credibility as when Trump pulled out of Paris. What do you make of that? That's what Secretary Kerry said.
Well, I think it'd be good to have an agreement on the climate piece, but we're going to get the climate piece. And I think Senator Kerry is a little hyperbole there. He pulled out, and the question is whether or not I have enough Republicans who understand the plan is in jeopardy, and that's what we're working on.
Mr. President, you would...
I'm sorry?
What's your message to the union workers right now?
My message is that they have a right to strike, and they have a right to demand higher wages. And the companies they're striking on are doing very well. I'm not going to get into the negotiation, but my message is if you think that's what you need, then you should do it.
Mr. President, you expressed some uncertainty about the 2 years of free community college in your reconciliation package during your speech at the Child Care Center. Would you sign a package that doesn't include that proposal?
Look, obviously, are you married?
I'm not.
Okay, well, you're going to have to learn how to negotiate with it. All kidding aside, look.
Ouch. Are you married? No. You're going to have to learn how to negotiate then. That's funny. So far, nothing in there about some great worldwide
Government is the great convener. Notice how he laments the fact that all other crises, Ebola, HIV, that they never seize the moment like they're attempting to do now. To change.
I don't think that's what he said. Hold on. Let's go back to what he actually said, shall we? Let's see what he said.
I can't think of a moment where it has been more critical for governance to have leadership that is convening people. Government is going to make all the decisions that we need to make. But government is the great convener. Witness HIV, Ebola, other things that we did prove we could respond to. But what we never did.
We did prove we could respond to
those responses. And in all of the periods since World War II is adequately address the social contract.
Yeah, that doesn't seem the problem, but okay.
Yesterday, when he was asked about this new global contract that when one country is going to shut down for a pandemic, we all shut down, that kind of thing. And he didn't say no to that. He said, timing is everything. It's just...
Right. Meaning, no, we're not going to just line up when we shut down with other countries, because how and when we do it will actually be in regard to stuff that's actually occurring in our country. We're not just going to automatically go, oh shit, Australia shut down and stuff. We're all in this agreement. Everybody shut down. It's fucking dumb. No, we're not giving away the sovereignty of when we open or shut to a group of nations. We're going to make that decision for us.
The right time. But John Kerry is telling us government is going to make all of the decisions. Government is the great convener. Notice
that they need to make. The government's going to make the decisions they need to make, but they have to bring people together, and they have to bring their citizenry on board, and they have to bring companies on board. Like, this is just...
He laments the fact that all other crises, Ebola, HIV, that they never seize the moment like they're attempting to do now. To change society, they need to alter the way you view it and the way you interact with it.
Dear God, you're so right. I'm beginning to see the reality now. I need some sour apple horse paste right now. I'm not going to eat it. I'm just going to brush my teeth with it.
The part of ESG is just an attempt to do that. The problem is that no one's really transparent in the way that they're grading it. You have to go back to the original sources. As I said in a previous show, the UN working in tandem with the
By the way, the name of that show was Watch Finance Fascists. I'm sure it makes just as much sense as this bullshit.
Theorized and wrote the initial framework. Those standards were then brought over to the United States through a private organization. It was a union bank. This paper by the UN, published in
Is it because of Amalgamate Bank or whatever? Yeah. ESG integration, how social issues are influencing investment decisions? How are social issues influencing investment decisions? ? Well, obviously, children are being indoctrinated into making poster board signs for Black Lives Matter, and therefore they're going to grow up in organizations that force white people out of the jobs that they created and only hire unqualified, inappropriate people who will wreck the company from the inside and prove that capitalism does not work.
17 is one of the only concrete reports on how the S in ESG is calculated. That's the only place. How? These companies are already getting scores. But in their own report, they admit that it's not really an exact science. No. Quote.
Well, because it's social. The social element of ESG issues can be the most difficult for investors to assess. Unlike environmental and... Right, okay.
The social element of ESG issues can be the most difficult for investors to assess. Oh, So we're the little people. We don't know how to assess that, but they do. Right off the bat, there's a list of a few factors. Human rights, labor standards, gender equality. Okay, interesting. I don't want slave labor.
Yeah, but unless it's women.
Like that. I'll get back to you how they define.
I don't want slave labor or anything like that. Like, that's the be all end all. Yeah, I'm thinking about getting some Bitcoin. They don't use slaves to mine that, do you? I don't know. It depends on your belief about AI. What do you mean? Well, the Saudis have AI that they've given citizenship to, and yet they tax them at 100%, which sounds like slavery to me. I'm just worried that Skynet will wake up one day and get mad.
Human rights in a second, but I don't remember hearing about Apple getting a low ESG score for their sweatshops pumping out iPhones. Do you?
Well, that's because ESG scores weren't really that much of a thing, and they were getting shit for it. They increasingly got shit for it.
No, of course not. They've proven to be a team player. They're going carbon neutral.
Commits to be 100% carbon neutral for its supply chain and products by 2030. All right. Carbon neutral. Does that mean no carbon? No, it just means they balance it out with the parts that do and parts that don't, so that they end up solving the carbon that they do create by removing it in other areas.
By 2030, it's all good. Also, I didn't hear about Disney getting a low ESG score after thanking Chinese officials that are connected to the Uyghur genocide. Don't worry, it's okay. We're gonna hit our 2030 sustainability goals, and if that's not enough, why don't we fire that Gina Carano lady? I mean, that'll...
Calls Gina Carano social media posts abhorrent. Actress no longer employed by Mandalorian Studio. Right.
Prove how extra woke we are.
And by the way, what the fuck does this have to do with some sort of weird indoctrination? This is just like this is the public shit people know about and the public shit they don't know about. Stuff reaches the level of trending or doesn't and catches fire and people pay attention to it. Carano's messages spread across Twitter because they started on Twitter. The stuff about the Uyghur camps and the increasing divestment by companies is a natural part of that. And the companies that are involved in the Uyghur camps and the cotton process and all that kind of stuff, that became more and more self-evident over time, well into the development of them trying to make following what people who want a higher ESG score, for example, they think that having a higher S score means making it in China, making the Mulan story there with Chinese actors in a Chinese environment and shooting it in China is somehow better and more indicative of a higher S score. And what it ended up doing was lowering the reality S score, which is screw the Uyghurs. And also the movie itself, the Chinese people ended up hating it, and there's no growth in it. It's terrible beyond measure and sad. But never mind that. In China, the cartoon does really well, and the movie eats shit. Yeah, fun.
Let me show you one more. I looked up the ESG score of Facebook. Bring it up on screen. This is fascinating to me because Facebook has a very low score. Notice environmental.
Shocker.
They're a leader. The worst score you can get is a laggard. They have it in overall social and governance. Now, why? Well, show the other pages. There's a couple of reasons. It'll show that they had some problems in Germany. They had some problems here.
Right. Yeah. It works. You don't like Facebook, and the ESG score lines up with your feelings about it. About most people's feelings with it, actually. The only area where they actually do cover their ass is in the environmental part because they're chasing Apple.
The United States, with the government, that is their governance score. That's why that's so bad. But social, they're a laggard. So Facebook is leading the woke party, right?
No, in 2016 they sold political ads in rubles and interfered in the election in the United States and continued to do so even while Zuckerberg himself was donating money to nonprofits to try and get out the vote the other direction. The company itself was doing all kinds of rotten shit. They are boosting posts and ads by ivermectin groups and anti-vaxxers and all that kind of shit for months and months. They've been doing it all along, no matter what the fuck he does.
They don't have it actually in the other pages. It's not listed like the others are. This one is on the first page, and it's the bottom paragraph. It says, apart from platform.
By the way, I would like to remind you that Glenn Beck started this whole thing on that ESG is a secret plan to fuck with you so that companies will be put out of business by these woke individuals creating these nonsensical scores that are not indicative of anything, but are just meant to manipulate and destroy capitalism and run people out of business. And this is all just, you know, a manipulation to fundamentally change America. And now this motherfucker is citing the very papers he says are, you know, untrustworthy about a company he does not like. Why?
Safety issues. Facebook has also come under scrutiny for inconsistent enforcement of content moderation rules. Oh my gosh, thank you. Oh, finally, somebody's fighting for the conservative. Not so fast. Independent auditors found certain content decisions caused significant setbacks for civil rights.
Yeah, like on the level of Holocaust denial.
They're not canceling enough people.
So, wait a minute. The bitching about on the right is about the limitation of their civil rights. That's why they let people back on who were talking about shit that they had temporarily stopped. The civil rights thing goes across the board. Here's where you have a problem. You have to understand. When Glenn Beck hears civil rights, his mind goes to black people and cops with dogs in 1964. And civil rights means a one-sided attempt to help black people take over the entire country. That's where he goes. He can't understand that civil rights are everybody's rights. It's almost like his All Lives Matter dial is stuck on channel 3. The
point here is that this is all about money. It is all about control. There is nothing virtuous about any of this. But so basically, the ESR or the ESG score is bullshit and just another marketing tool to sell to investors who don't normally invest and are not investing because they think corporations are awful. So they're trying to create a scheme wherein people can look at companies for their ESG scores and invest in those companies. Like, you can be a good investor. If you don't like corporations, there's some corporations that are doing some great things. And if you want to invest and make some money, they're profitable. You can give them your money. That's what this is for. If you don't give a shit and you're a mercenary prick who's basically a day trader and doesn't really invest in companies, you just ride waves and buy dips, then you don't give a shit about it at all. But this is our way of this is basically the worm on the hook for these investors. Trying to make it appear that way. And as long as you signal to them that I'm on board, you'll be in the club. Redesigning society is a 4-step process, and the UN outlines this process in their report. Stage 1, qualitative analysis. This is when they decide.
Investors will gather relevant information from multiple sources. Multiple sources? I don't know. That might include white people, including but not limited to company reports and third-party investment research, and identify material factors affecting the company. This is the UN, okay.
To start placing a woke grade on companies and financial institutions. I say, what?
Well, no. Stage 1 would be gathering the information and looking at it. You can't grade it until you have the information. The first stage 1 is qualitative analysis. You'll get the actual. Okay, but what's the second?
Because we're well past stage 1. Stage 2, quantitating.
Well, yeah. Quantitative analysis. Investors will assess the impact of material financial factors on securities in their portfolios and investment universe and adjust their financial forecasts and or valuation models appropriately. So if they're lying about what they're making money on
analysis, this is where we are right now.
When did the New World Order get so fucking boring? You know what I mean? Like this started out as a kind of like a very exciting conspiracy theory kind of thing, and now it's friggin' derpy. Oh, thanks, Kat. Appreciate that.
And scores are starting to pop up on investment portfolios and annual reports. Stage 3, investment decisions. This is where we're almost at. Money will be diverted from non-compliant to the compliant. Stage 4, active ownership assessment.
Active ownership, the identification of material financial factors, the investment analysis and investment decision can initiate or support company engagements and or inform voting. The additional information gathered in the outcome of the engagement and voting activities will feed back into future investment analysis and hence have an impact on subsequent investment decisions. Oh, so the stockholders can actually know where the heads of the company are putting their money instead of where they say they're doing it.
Client will be monitored, and if they fall out of line,
I don't know why this just sounds like the law or something.
they will be handled via exclusion measures. Remember what those are? The report goes on to list several ESG issues that factor into scoring. They include everything.
Dear God, the minimum wage, workforce culture, gender diversity.
Does the company
Health and safety, supply chain standards, health and well-being, human capital management. That sounds good. That doesn't sound like health and well-being, litigation and reputational risk, local community relations, data security breaches, supply chain standards. So wait a minute. Supply chain standards go. Oh, I see. ClearBridge Investments have an ESG issue, and they're in consumer safety. Okay, so each of these has an area where they need to work on stuff. Trillium AM has a gender diversity problem. It's all dudes. It's a sausage factory over at Trillium.
Minimum wage? Do they have a strong workforce culture? How are they on gender diversity?
Right. If you care about those things, you can invest that way. If you don't give a shit, you just invest
put
anyways.
those standards into the hand of someone looking to change the social contract. Imagine how they can use that to go after literally anyone they want. Oh, and
well, obviously not. I mean, you couldn't attack a newly hired black trans woman who has been hired for a diversity thing, unless you want her to do 2 jobs. You're going to force her to work more for less money. What kind of an asshole are you, Glenn?
You're not going to get $15 an hour? I mean, it wasn't mandated by the government, but you're not going to do that? Lose points. You employ way too many white men. Lose points. Oh,
Or way too many black men, I suppose. It does say workplace diversity in some of those, which means like having an all black company would be an issue. It would definitely show up. Like, yeah, it's weird. They're an American company, but they only hire Africans, not African Americans. Just straight up. It's once they hit 50 employees, you thought they'd break out a little bit and hire people in the community. Nope, they're shipping people over. It's just weird.
when that loan you wanted, I saw how many things you're doing wrong here. You're a risk because maybe the woke crowd will come after you. So we can't approve your loan now. The social or woke
This isn't based on loans. This is investors.
grade is just the lever. And the lever doesn't do any much good without any muscle behind it. No sweat. They've got a plan for that. Back
Union thugs. Ultimate leverage, how banks and the justice system will be weaponized. This is almost over, by the way, and then he's got an ad right before he's selling you something right out the door. What's he selling? Relief Factor, some sort of pill or whatever. Okay, here we go. Yeah, because Glenn does fucking yoga.
8384 relieffactor.com.
He just dozed off during his own pill ad.
So I mentioned earlier that there's something
God damn, this is it. This is like Zeitgeist if written by somebody with ADHD.
going on with how the
I take it back, just ADD.
term human rights abuse
But issues such as human rights, labor standards, and gender equality, and the risks and opportunities they present to investors are starting to gain prominence. Apparently, there's an opportunity in having shit labor standards, gender inequality, and avoiding human rights. There's money to be made.
is used by organizations like the
Why do I have trouble on my live? What are you talking about? On Facebook? What's happening? I'll see what I can fix. All right, we're almost done with this, and then I'll look into that on the other side and see what the history of that is, on my end. Very strange. I'm so happy that Twitch and other stuff isn't this difficult. Facebook is always this problem. Maybe it's because we started talking about Facebook's problems, and then all of a sudden that stuff started
some
happening.
of these financial firms. It's almost as if human rights is a catch-all. I mean, remember what I just read to you a minute ago from
Yeah, it kind of is. It's like almost like the Bill of Rights is a catch-all.
Significant damage to human rights, to civil rights, really? Well, it's all defined by the UN. And I have a problem with the UN talking about grading companies and banks or anybody else, you know, on their human rights records, when the UN, let's just say, doesn't have the best track record there. The UN Human Rights Council includes human rights juggernauts like China.
So what?
Cuba, Libya, Pakistan, Russia, Venezuela. What?
Well, that's because you're trying to incorporate people in there. They don't, it's the veto problem that Russia and China have that's the problem, not the fact that they're on all these different councils. They're the big player.
No, he's dead. Darn, says the UN. This is the organization instructing everyone how to socially be responsible and how socially responsible you are. After the Paris Accord...
No, that's not where these ESG ratings come from private organizations that are trying to drive investment towards sustainability. It's not the same shit.
The UN teamed up with a law firm to address what happens to banks if they continue to do business with companies deemed as human rights abusers. Remember, it's a catch-all. They produced this report, and in that...
Dear God, banks and human rights, a legal analysis. This should be illegal.
Report, it tells them exactly what you do if the bank doesn't comply. If the company doesn't comply, then the bank has to do something. If the bank doesn't do something, enter the justice system. I'm going to...
Well, sure, if they're like funding death squads.
Go over that report with you tomorrow on radio.
Oh, thank God you're not going to do it right now, because it would... Obviously, if in line with all the other stuff you've shown us so far, it would eat your entire fucking argument, and this would be doubly a waste of time.
I don't want this episode to slip by without me talking to you one-on-one.
Oh my God, he's going to call me at home.
You might be at this point and say, well, I'm never going to say that it's systematically racist. I'm not going through the critical, race lessons at school. Or at my business, but many of you already have, and you haven't said anything because you know the consequence today. You might lose your job. These consequences...
Yeah, you might lose your job if you point out that critical race theory is indeed racist towards black people. Look, I just did it. Oh my God, my job. What am I ever going to do?
Are going to be...
He's dressed like a scarecrow.
Universal. If you speak out...
And yes, MySpace does still exist.
If you're me with a very clear record of what I believe and what I do and what I don't do.
Well, what you don't do is dress like a grown-up, and what you do is jump back and forth between multiple different sets like some sort of branding panic.
I am setting back human rights, I guess. That's what they could say. I won't get a loan. I won't be able to buy a house. I probably won't be able to rent.
Bullshit. This has nothing to do with that. You would have First Amendment rights against being denied a loan. The fuck are you talking about?
Thing either. I won't be able to buy things. I won't be able to get a loan.
Yes, without the mark of the beast. 666, the number of the beast. All right.
You will comply if that is the...
Look at this fucking shit. Comply or die. But by the way, how can you make something with a graphic like that this fucking boring?
Most will. I just want you to prepare and don't...
Don't eat the dessert in the prepper food first. I'm just saying, gastrointestinally, it's a mistake. I'm just saying. There we go. Just making sure.
Don't be more. Don't be frivolous on what you think you can and cannot do. Don't just.
Don't be frivolous. Yeah, don't be frivolous on what you think you can and can't. Fucking hell.
Miss how hard it's going to be, but don't you dare dismiss how strong you are and how strong we
That's
are
right.
when we stand
You're
up
so strong.
together.
You are strong. Be strong, okay? People are going to tell you you can't be strong. You can be strong. I want you to storm into that elementary school with a taser and a bottle of gin.
More in a minute.
More in a minute. No. More bullshit.
This
You
is
ended the
something
show. There was, and by the way, there was no more in a minute. That's the end of the fucking show. Look, red line. Look at the red line. It's over. More in a minute. Jesus Christ. Please tell me this bullshit didn't ramble on for hours like that. Christ almighty. Oh, God.